And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight-up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. And today we're talking about Red Dead Redemption 2 on PC. It's finally here on the platform 1 year later after the original console release. Rockstar Games kind of kept us in suspense with this one. Like, they really did. We had no idea whether or not it was coming other than the occasional rumor and lots of hopes and dreams. And thankfully, for us PC folks, it was worth the wait, at least when it works. There have been some launch issues for some players, and I'll get into that. But ultimately, when it's up and running, you're getting the best version of the game here. I mean, look at it. These are first impressions, of course. We downloaded it and started playing it today, like a lot of you guys. Now, Red Dead Redemption 2 already felt like it looked like a damn miracle running on PS4 and Xbox One, and now that it can use the capabilities of a modern PC, there's a lot more icing on the cake here. You know, draw distances are noticeably sharper. Not that the original game had that problem, but ambient occlusion, lighting, and global illumination is strong across the board, making certain times of day look noticeably better than on console, especially like in the evening hours. You can have higher resolution textures, shadows, and get down with some ultra-wide action if you have the type of monitor. Now, photo mode in particular really shines here in this version of the game because you can get everything so high res, so sharp, so full of anti-aliasing and effect and particles and everything, and you can capture some gorgeous moments in what they built here, this whole world. This isn't like a crazy hot take or anything, but I think every game should have a photo mode. I'm just saying. Now, I've said this before, we're not technical analysts, we're not Digital Foundry. Shout out to those people out there who are doing the good work. We're just going by look and feel here. And firstly, I gotta say, the biggest thing here is the frame rate. Having Red Dead at 60 FPS or higher, especially on a nice higher refresh rate, that really is the game changer here. I'm not usually like the frame rate snob around here. You guys know me, but it's probably the best feature here. The game feels and plays much, much better because of it. Now, this is kind of obvious, but you'll really notice the upgrades on like a 1440 or 4K monitor or TV. That's where some of the detail really lies. Water is more realistic, effects are stronger and more believable, grass is a little more lush. This is an impressive PC version, although you're gonna obviously need a beefy rig if you want to max things out for real. You probably know the drill by now, everything that comes with that, Also, I want to point out, it's really nice having a quicker startup. The signature long load time that open world Rockstar games have on consoles typically is cut in half here, so long as like you have a good SSD or something. Now, here are the system requirements, just in case you haven't seen them. I'll put them up on screen just to help you guys out. There they are. We've been playing on a build with a 2070 and then another build with a 2080. Now, there have been reports of people not quite getting the settings they want despite having a really good system. We've seen reports of poor optimization. Our chat on the live show, on the live stream, and comments on videos already have people claiming the game is running very poorly on their machines. So I really want to make sure we point this out because on our end, we haven't had or experienced any issues running the game at some decent settings with decent specs. We don't want to come across as like tone deaf though and not acknowledge that. So we want to point out that some players are having serious issues and there might be some issues with optimization. So it might be worth paying attention to if you're thinking about buying. There are also launch issues where the game either won't boot or immediately crashes in certain situations. At this point, Rockstar has kind of been a little silent on it to the point where I think that's bad, but I expect these issues to be fixed pretty quickly because on one machine we did run into the Rockstar launcher exit issue that you may have been seen making headlines today. Thankfully for us though, that was a pretty easy fix, just normal PC gaming bullshit. It's important to note though that of most of the places you buy it, it will still make you go through Rockstar's launcher, which I'm not really the biggest fan of yet. It also makes you have a social club account. It seems like it's mandatory, and that's kind of annoying to log in and that stuff, especially for a game I just primarily plan to play single player, but that's just me. Now, like I did it Before You Buy on The Witcher 3 when it came to Switch, I think it's just a good excuse to talk about this game, Red Dead Redemption 2, and why we like it so much over here, especially after months and months of time to sit on it. Red Dead 2 is a massive, slow-paced game. Some might actually find it a bit boring or meandering, but personally, I find it a really fascinating group character study at first. Like a look at the decline of the Wild West from the perspective of a band of rebels, but people who aren't cartoonish outlaws, but are actual real people. The game is so convincing in its character writing and acting that seeing where they end up is like the real star of the show. But, of course, the real thing, the main thing, you're spending long stretches of the game exploring completely alone as this dude, Arthur Morgan. I think Arthur Morgan is a great character. His starting point, like the jump off point when you play the game, sees him already as someone who is tired of this world, but it's all he knows. He's already tried to change, but fell back in, and this is where he's at now. He's just doing it. He can be dastardly, but ultimately he isn't the horrible person he sometimes jokes that he is. Unless, of course, you choose to play as just a complete nightmare monster, which you can, and that's always fun. It's a Rockstar game after all. But I just enjoyed playing as and watching someone in a Wild West world that seemed believable, like he might have actually been a real guy. Sometimes it's harder to connect with characters portrayed in different time periods just because their world is so different than the current world we live in. But I think with Arthur, you can actually somewhat make a connection. There's a believability there that I really like, and I think the actor sold it really freaking well. Now, what I got from his very unconventional story is a point that isn't expressed in movies and games like this very often. The importance of what you pass on, as corny as that says. Some people's lives are a result of the work others have put in. That's why, as for, most of the game as side characters, John Marston and his family really round out Arthur's tale, and ultimately his arc, very interestingly, translates into their own, and strengthens the original Red Dead Redemption in the process. There's a lot to it, I think, that makes it really special, and the game takes its time to let you get to know every single character. It pays a lot of homage to a lot of classic movie and Western setups and things you've seen before, but does it in its own way, and ultimately goes its own direction, and I found to be incredibly satisfying after its conclusion. It's also just a big world filled with things to mess around in, weird Rockstar side quests and characters. There's a lot here. Of course, that's just me and what I've taken away from this game, especially after having a whole year to reflect on it, but on that alone, I recommend it, absolutely. Now, with Red Dead 2, of course, you also get Red Dead Online, so there's that. I thought it was some light fun at first, especially the competitive stuff and the little bits of story they put into it, but ultimately, it never held me for the long term. Maybe it will for you? I don't know. Really, Red Dead Redemption 2 is, like I said, a solid game, and I'm just glad it exists on PC now. If you're a PC fan, there are some issues with some machines, and Rockstar clearly needs to iron out some kinks here, but ultimately, when it's going, you will have a gorgeous and fun game. But of course, that's a before you buy. You know how this works. We give you some pros, some cons, and some first impressions and opinion. So now we want to hear yours down in the comments below. What do you guys think? Have any of you hopped into this? Are you having issues? Was it something you could easily resolve? Is it something you haven't resolved? Or have you been like us and really had, minimal issues? Let's talk about anything Red Dead Redemption 2 down in the comments. Would love to hear you guys' thoughts who played it on console now that it's been a year. What are you thinking on it, man? We made it our game of the year, I'm pretty sure, and you know what? We still all kind of stand by that. This is awesome. But of course, if you learned something from this video, clicking the like button is really the best way you can help us out. We would wholeheartedly appreciate that. And if you're new, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell too, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.